Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Robin Merrill.
Hello and welcome to the highlights of the week. Coming up, making tracks, a British artist with a particular sense of snow. Fast forward, creating tracking shots with individual photographs. And Crime Pays, the award-winning Spanish writer Lorenzo Silva. British artist Simon Beck uses unusual and simple materials for his work. His tools are a compass and a pair of snowshoes. His canvas is a snow-covered mountainside. Beck is a self-taught snow artist who trudges out enormous designs in the French Alps that are best viewed from above, much like the designs in crop circles. Part of the excitement for him is the endurance he needs to complete one design and the unreliability of wind and weather. We went to see him in action.
Artist Simon Beck goes to great lengths for his art. Some of his snow designs are as big as 3 football fields put together. This is one way the experienced mountain climber expresses his love of the mountains.
The snow art, you're actually adding something beautiful to the mountains. The mountains improve the artwork, and the artwork improves the mountains. So it's like a team between the mountains and the drawing.
10 years ago, the British engineer bought an apartment at a ski resort in the French Alps. After skiing, he would draw simple motifs in the snow on a frozen lake. That ignited a passion that now often keeps him up late into the night. But when morning comes, the wind has often blown away what he began.
You can see yesterday's design has almost disappeared. You can just see it around the edge where the snow is really deep. So it looks like it's a clean sheet to start a new one. I mean, that's the game. God makes the rules. Mankind will never be above the laws of nature. You've got to live with nature when you do something outdoors.
His first step is to determine the basic geometric structure of his snow drawings using a compass. He takes inspiration from mathematical patterns or the sand gardens in Japanese temples. He places great importance on accuracy when drawing the lines.
The first 2 hours is usually the measuring, using your compass. If you walk in the wrong place, you can't undo it. So the measuring has to be done with a great deal of care. Once you've got all the main lines drawn, then it becomes a lot easier. So at the start of that process, you put on your music, and you're then listening to your music all the time.
And for him, that means music by Ludwig van Beethoven. It helps him work for 10 hours at a stretch, at 3,000 meters, alone in a battle with wind and weather.
It is not pleasant, and you really have a long day. Usually you feel very tired. The main feeling when you're finished is just to get back safely. It is actually quite dangerous. When you stop, you're in great danger, and you have to be a bit careful sometimes not to push yourself too hard.
When he's finished, Beck treks up the mountain to photograph his art. In the town's internet cafe, he posts his newest work on Facebook. He now has 20,000 fans around the world.
So many people use Facebook, and really this is when the whole snow art business took off, when I started going on Facebook. This is the great thing about the internet. You haven't got to persuade some art gallery to exhibit your stuff. You can just show it to anyone who wants to look at it.
The enthusiastic comments by Facebook users keep fueling his ambition as an artist.
I want to become famous. I want to get enough money. I don't want to make money from my snow art, but I want to get enough money to pay for some really good equipment. I'd like one of those £10,000 medium format cameras, so I can produce really big prints of the cameras and do an exhibition. I'd like to go out here at night and have lights around the edge of it. Lights that can be switched on and switched off with remote control.
But for now, he still has to make do with Spartan equipment. That's why he wants to start working in a new place.
Norway would be a fantastic place to do it because of the low light. It's like sunset conditions all the time. And you can get the sun almost horizontally shining across the snow, which will give you a really good picture.
Wherever Simon Beck leaves his tracks, white works of art are sure to follow.
Art created from nature, wonderful. Now, there are people whose busiest time of year at work is Christmas. The hunt for suitable gifts often means that gift wrapping is one of those jobs that gets left to the last minute. And one solution is to have someone do it for you, which is a great idea if you're like me. I'm all fingers and thumbs and get sellotape everywhere. Anyway, a personal wrapping service might be considered an extravagance, but it can not only save you time and nerves, it also sometimes makes that gift extra special.
Handcrafted, hand-printed Japanese tissue paper. Bright, lacquered gift boxes. Ribbons in a rainbow of colors. And countless wrapping paper designs. Despite the dizzying variety of packaging available, statistics show most Germans give little thought to the presentation of a Christmas gift. They're happy if the store will wrap it for them. On average, German shoppers shell out €41 per gift, only to have it wrapped in paper adorned with a company logo. But give your gift to Ulrika Meyer to wrap, and your present will get much more individual treatment.
People are starting to pay more attention to packaging because it adds value to a gift. It enhances a gift's status, especially if it's expensive or a very personal gift. Packaging makes it a complete entity.
Ulrika is a personal assistant in Hamburg and charges €42 an hour. When it comes to Christmas gifts, her services include wrapping and a handwritten, personalized Christmas card.
People can use the time they'd normally spend wrapping presents to enjoy mulled wine at a Christmas market or some other holiday activity. It's gratifying. We relieve our clients from the burden of doing something they have no desire or time for.
Wine is a popular Christmas gift, but Ulrika thinks the recipient shouldn't recognize a bottle before they've opened the present. She finds creative solutions in a paper shop. She opts for traditional colors. A triangular form helps conceal the bottle's shape. The gift and customer's taste determine the type of wrapping.
If it's a woman in her 40s or so, then it should be sophisticated. Or if her husband says her taste is on the traditional side, you can add muted colors, not trendy ones like purple or something with glitter.
Ulrika also makes creative packaging for gift certificates. She often visits stores for home accessories. Here, where others buy their gifts, she finds the perfect packaging. Like a tea strainer to contain a pricey piece of jewelry. Or a present within a present. For example, with a picture frame.
Remove the glass, cover it with a nice piece of cloth or pretty paper, and then drape a necklace in the picture frame. It looks very classy, and you can use the frame for something else later. It's a nice gift idea.
Many upscale department stores have widened the gift wrapping options for customers. In this Berlin store, shoppers can choose a look and opt for high-quality tissue wrapping instead of the house's standard red and black design.
It could be a bit sexy, going heavier on the red or the black, whatever they want. We can also spray the ribbon bow with rose fragrance. People enjoy receiving gifts embellished with a scent.
Small embellishments that make a big impression and add to the many joys of Christmas.
You should see me trying to wrap Christmas presents. It's a comedy show. Anyway, here's an impressive film project now that has an element of fantasy. It's the latest work of Shahab Gabriel Bezumi, and under the artist name Bezumi, he specialises in hyperlapse films which allow the viewer to feel as if they're being transported through space. The 25-year-old from Mannheim works all by himself, but you'd never know it by the result. So we tagged along to see how he does it.
This is the German capital as you've never seen it before. Berlin Hyperlapse is the self-explanatory title of this fast-motion clip. It's become a big hit since it was posted online in September. It's the kind of film you'd expect to have been produced with the help of high-end movie cameras. But it was made with a digital single-lens reflex camera by 25-year-old Shahab Gabriel Bezumi, who spent 6 days snapping still shots of Berlin.
I want to communicate the feeling of flying and to visualize things that you don't normally see. This time and space lapse option allows you to present an alternative view of things, the banal things of our world, from as many perspectives as possible.
Today, Bezumi is scouting for motifs back home in the city of Mannheim. It's been 6 years since he first got into time-lapse photography. His hobby turned into a passion. And eventually, his graduation project for his visual arts degree in 2011.
Why time-lapse? It's like keeping a kind of diary that you can call up again and again. I see myself as an archivist who wants to take as many pictures as possible. It's like playing a little trick on your own transience.
Bezumi has come to the statue of Friedrich Schiller in downtown Mannheim to sculpt a digital tribute to the famous poet and playwright. His tools? A wheeled tripod and a digital camera.
It's always important to choose the path and a fixed point beforehand. You have to imagine where the center of the rotation around the object will be.
Bezumi takes about 100 pictures, each one focusing on the head of the statue. The trick is to move slowly between snaps while at the same time changing the zoom. After minor modifications on the computer, the hyperlapse illusion is complete. The camera appears to be circling the subject at varying heights.
The point is to generate camera flights that would only be possible, if at all, with a massive technical outlay. Because you can break down each second, hyperlapsing gives you a huge amount of time to recreate your camera flight in slow motion.
These are excerpts from Bezumi's latest project, a promotional film from Mannheim Palace. The ad agency that commissioned the film regularly uses the hyperlapse technique.
Presenting a building like that triggers huge excitement, even though nothing's happening. It's something you can't create with either photography or a normal video film. And that's what makes it so appealing.
Determined to maximize the appeal of his films, Bazumi edits each frame individually in order to minimize the jumps between frames. He looks forward to doing many more movies like this.
My big dream would be to do a project like I did in Berlin, in Tehran, where my father was born.
That's a dream that would mean taking around 2,000 shots just for 60 seconds of film. Hyperlapse is truly an art form for the patient photographer.
The Nobel Prize for Literature is the world's top accolade for authors. Another prestigious prize, but one you might not have heard of, is the Premio Planeta. This prize recognises the works of authors who write in Spanish, and in 2012 it was awarded to crime writer Lorenzo Silva. Within weeks of the announcement, his prize-winning book sold nearly 300,000 copies, so the prize certainly has an effect on sales in the Spanish-speaking world. We went to find out more about this best-selling author.
Lorenzo Silva's new thriller is set in the resort of Castelldefels near Barcelona. When a retired police officer is murdered, investigations uncover links to the world of drugs, prostitution, and police corruption. Lorenzo Silva based the story on real events.
This place appealed to me as the backdrop for my novel because of the beach, the light, and the mountains. I wanted to show that people who commit crimes are no different from the rest of us. They don't stand out, they live among us, and they're very nearby.
As well as the victim, the two main protagonists are also police officers.
The chief investigator is intuitive and thoughtful. He can be very sharp-tongued and ironic. That's his way of dealing with a legal system that has shortcomings. He realizes that many dangerous criminals will never be brought to justice.
Lorenzo Silva stopped working as a lawyer 10 years ago to devote himself to writing. He won the Premio Planeta Award in October. The prize is worth 600,000 euros and has been awarded since 1952. Back then, the illiteracy rate was relatively high in Spain.
At that time, reading was something for the prosperous elite. Against that backdrop, the prize was set up to remind Spaniards once a year that there's something called literature. Many people go out and buy the winning novel. On my reading tours, people come up to me and say that for half a century they've bought every prize winner, no matter what it's about.
Crime novels are big business. In Germany, they make up 30% of the fiction market. But Winfried Höning of the German publisher Surkamp says not every successful crime writer translates well.
With some foreign crime novels, Japanese or Spanish ones, for example, I just can't understand the plots because I don't know the cultural background or the mentality or the history. Books like that need to be explained, not to the domestic market where they were written, but for German readers.
In the case of Lorenzo Silva's works, one issue is that his heroes work for the Guardia Civil, a name that many people associate with the Franco dictatorship, even though the Guardia Civil often stood for liberal ideas over the course of its history.
The first thing the Guardia Civil told me is that my books were very welcome, because they show the officers as normal people, and a wide range of characters, clever and less clever, decent officers and criminal officers. They were relieved to see themselves portrayed as regular members of society.
Lorenzo Silva is set to gain many more readers thanks to the prize. And not just at home. Publishers around the world have been inquiring about translation rights.
To London now, and what happens when you deprive an everyday object of its function? Does it still have a value, or is the entire value of a thing based upon its ability to function? These are questions that British artist Jeremy Hutchison asks himself, and he wanted to determine if real luxury was the object with no function at all. He found the answers after a time-consuming project that examined the relationship between manufacturer, product and consumer. An interesting subject, so here's more.
A cheese grater with no holes. A pencil without any lead. And a pipe apparently made for non-smokers. Everyday objects with one thing in common. They're flawed. In fact, they were custom manufactured for Jeremy Hutchison. The built-in errors serve to strip the items of their function. It all has to do with his definition of true luxury.
Ultimately, the end game of luxury is obsolescence. If you have a Rolex and it still ticks, or if you have a Mont Blanc pen and it still writes, then it's just a tool, like a gardener's spade. And when things slump into obsolescence, when they finally don't work anymore and they're just a lump of beautiful material, I think that's what true luxury is about.
Hutchison takes that idea to the next level. A toothless comb is about as practical as a stiletto with two heels. His dysfunctional objects question the worth of luxury products.
I wonder if you buy a Gucci handbag, if you buy it for its function, or really for what it communicates in a system of values, in an entire chain of other objects. It becomes an index of your wealth. It shows that you have a certain social standing. By removing the function of objects, I've simply extended something that's already happening.
Like many products on display in high-end boutiques, Hutchison's items are produced in low-cost manufacturing countries like China or India. He contacted 5,000 factories around the world and asked them to produce a flawed version of the item they produce. Many firms were confused or assumed the whole thing was a joke. That correspondence is also part of his art project. But he did manage to get 21 companies on board who duly manufactured special, function-free editions of a certain product.
It took an awful lot of work. Almost no factory understood what I was talking about to begin with. It took normally between about 50 to 80 emails back and forward to make them really understand what I was talking about. I think the most important thing that art can do is just shift our reality 5 degrees to the side. But once you have people who believe in that and are willing to come along with you and just sort of play that particular game, then it's really amazing what you can make happen.
These weird and wonderful products are on display and for sale at the Paradise Row Gallery in London. They're marketed under the label name Erratum, Latin for error. The pointless pipe has a price tag of just under €600. The dual-heeled shoe costs $920, a saw with the teeth at the wrong end $650, and the racket that lends a new meaning to tennis doubles €1,200. London's art aficionados were hugely impressed on opening night.
I think it's wonderful, actually. It's such a simple and elegant idea, and so beautifully executed. So the craftsmanship is lovely, and it's very impressive.
I really like the fact that we're looking at these everyday objects in like a new light. Taking away their kind of functionality and looking at the pure kind of architectural beauty of these objects. It's really interesting.
My favourite ones are the ones that take you a little moment to realise what's quite wrong with them. And there's a beautiful trumpet over there that I'm sure you've seen already. The glasses I especially like because they're almost perfect, really. And it's the minor flaws that I think are the most poignant.
Hutchison graduated from art school just last year, and the 33-year-old's career is off to a sensational start.
So I think we're all kind of trying to locate ourselves in the madness of the early 21st century. So it's nice to be having success, but as much as anything, this is just a vehicle to explore the time that we're living in.
And there seems to be plenty of demand for Jeremy Hutchison's deliberately dysfunctional items.
Interesting. He certainly makes you think about the value of things. That's what modern art is all about. It makes you think outside the box. Those were our highlights of the week. Thanks very much for joining us from myself and all the crew here in Berlin. Until next time, bye-bye.